everyone, and welcome back to another Christmas countdown video. I forgot to give you guys a code since we pulled a holo, so here is an Ancient Origins booster pack code. T7Z. Mr. Snowman, move! I know it's your time of the year, but geez! VUCA D7U U3A. And if you guys get anything good, let me know in the comment section below. I'm always curious. But today we're going to do, finally, our first reading. So say hello to this hunky dude. This book is by Susan Amaryllis, Silver and Steel, author of Snow Angel. But the reason why, and this one's probably going to be a little bit longer than the next ones because you're going to be going through some of this stuff too. But I thought that we would do this one because it's like next on the list, and even though it's another freaking love book, but at the same time, it is kind of nice to see some of the, I guess, books that my aunt used to read and stuff, and just kind of, I mean, I love reading, so this kind of can help you guys too to determine if you think you'll like a book or not. But it won't always be love books, I promise. Right now I'm actually reading The Covenant and Harry Potter, the first book, for the next reviews. And then the next book that I read here, hopefully it'll be something different. But anyways, here's our little reader note. Dear reader, although summer is drawing to a close, Harlequin Historical continues to provide the best historical romance has to offer. This month, reacquaint yourself with the best-selling author Willow Davis Roberts in the release of her epic saga To Share a Dream. Three sisters flee England to find a new life in the colonies, but Massachusetts is not all what they expect. Healer Damaris Fleetwood battles for possession of her home in Thornbeck, a medieval romance by Linda Trent. But when the Queen sends aid in the form of Sir Gavin Rutledge, can love yet win the day? Author Susan Amaryllis premiered in March Madness 1993 with Snow Angel. Her latest release, Silver and Steel, centers on Mary Clancy, who is convinced that the railroad is the answer to Rainbow Gulch's prayers, though attorney Alexandra Motto is prepared to fight her every step of the way. Popular historical author Anne Lynn makes her Harlequin historical debut with Beautiful Dreamer. In this heartwarming tale, ex-Confederate soldier Connor O'Malley finds new purpose in life at Lady Fallon's dilapidated ranch, as well as a secret the beautiful Lindy is determined to hide. We hope you enjoy these selections. Look for Harlequin Historicals next month when Claire Delacroix takes us once again to the pageantry of Middle Ages, and Merlin Lovelance pens her third book in the Destiny's Women. Surely join us. All four exciting titles. Sincerely, Trancy Farrell. So, like, I guess this is kind of good if you guys are into romance. You can kind of see what some of these books are about, and if you'd like to. But we're going to begin the journey in this, who knows what kind of book, really. Books by Susan Amaryllis. I might be pronouncing that wrong, too. Harlequin Historical, Snow Angel, number 165, Silver and Steel, number 233. Susan Amaryllis was born and raised in Maryland and moved to California when she married. She quickly discovered her love of the high desert country. She says it was as if she were coming home. When she's not writing, she and her husband love to travel the back roads of the West, visiting ghost towns and little museums, and always coming home with an armload of books. That sounds like me every time I go to Bowling Green. That's crazy. Anyways. To my father, who helped me see the Washington, D.C. of cobblestone streets, and to Gail and Carol Sue Salinger for sharing their knowledge and love of Indian culture. Chapter 1, Montana Territory, 1879. Exactly 4 buildings lined each side of Main Street like a mirror image right down to the peeling paint. That was the welcome sight that greeted Mary Elizabeth Clancy as she rode into Rainbow Gulch on a sunny Tuesday in May. She had news. good news. News that was going to change everything, and she couldn't wait to share it with the people who meant the world to her. Where the blazes was everyone? There was only a dust devil to greet her, and even that world passed, leaving the street silent and empty, with only the steady clip-clop of her buck's hooves and the creak of saddle leather to keep her company. Glancing up over the rooftops, she noted the billowing thunderheads building over the Beartooth Mountains. There'd be rain tonight, a real hide under the cover storm by the look of things. About that time, she saw Tim Johnson stroll out of the number 3 saloon and lean casually against the gnarled upright supporting one corner of the porch. So this must be like old. I don't know, a saloon? Okay. Hard to believe a town of less than 200 people would need 3 saloons. 3 or 103, she couldn't have cared. This was home, and every dirt-covered log shack scattered over the hillside looked like a palace to her. With a nudge of her heel against her horse's side, she headed in Tim's direction. Poor Tim was as nearsighted as an old woman, and she could see him squinting, trying to make her out. The instant he did, he straightened abruptly and called over his shoulder toward the saloon's open doorway. "Mary's back!" Mary gave him a wave, and was rewarded with a hopeful grin slashed across his freckled face from ear to ear. "Hey, everybody, come on! Mary Clancy's back!" Leaping off the wood porch, he stared in her direction, the afternoon breeze puffing out the sleeves of his too big green plaid shirt. Reining to a stop in the middle of the sunny dirt street, Mary dismounted. Just as she figured, the horse wandered to the nearby water trough, while all around her men thundered out of the saloons as if someone had shouted, "Avalanche!" Merrill Asher took a banging away on a piece of iron pipe that dangled on a length of rawhide, like a hanged man in front of the number 1. The alarm was used for emergencies. Fire, mostly, or when somebody was hurt. Today it called the rest of the town's population to a meeting. In no time, 150 or so people gathered around Mary. "Well," seemed to be the question on everyone's lip, straining for the words that would make or break the future. "Did we get it? The train! Did we get the train? Come on, Mary, spit it out!" "Where's Papa?" she counted, wanting the most important person in her life to be there. When she told him, "Please move." She didn't tell them that. This has got to be like set in old time, like Gunsmoke era or something, or like Columbo. I don't know, I forgot what it's called, but "Here I am, Mary girl," Brian Clancy called over the heads of the crowd. "Hey, let a man through, will ya?" A smile lighted up her face as she watched him soldier his way through the group, dirt-stained, his denim pants, and his faded blue shirt. At nearly 50, he stood ramrod straight, hair graying at the temples. "Good to have you back, girl." He gathered her in a fatherly hug, then put her slightly away from him. "You okay? I don't like you making that trip to Bozeman alone." Mary smiled. "Some things never changed. I'm fine, and I missed you too, Papa. And you two can get reacquainted later," Sam Rectory cut in. He ran a hand through his thinning brown hair. "Now what's the verdict? Good or bad?" Mary straightened, swiped at a stray lock of curly black hair the breeze kept pushing in her face, and said, "It's good. The house of—" "Did you hear that?" Tom Johnson asked, scanning the crowd of startled faces. "We done it! The Congress said yes! We're going to get the railroad spur!" "Tim, I didn't mean—" Too late. Her plea was lost in the excitement. For a moment, all she could do was watch in horror as the bystanders went wild, shouting, laughing, slapping one another on the back. The wives, the dozen there were, hugged their husbands and cried, and the handful of children played a game of Ring Around a Rosie. "No, wait," Mary pleaded, but no one paid attention. Brian Clancy beamed. "Mary girl, I wish your mom was here to see this day. She'd be proud." Mary's pulse pounded in her ear. This was not how it was supposed to be. She had to explain. "No, Papa, His laughter drowned out her plea. Sam Rusty's chubby cheeks pounced up in an eye-squinting smile that danged letter-written stuff Mary thought of worked. No! Mary shouted. You don't understand. Panic filled her. Desperately, she tried to get everyone's attention. Please, she pushed into the crowd, grabbing first one then another. Listen, it's not over. What? Eddie Edwards stilled. He let his daughter slide through his arms to stand on the ground. What do you mean it ain't over? You just said... Brian's smile faded. Slowly, the crowd seemed to pick up on the conversation. People quieted, and once again all the faces turned toward her. Her panic turned into a knot that started in her stomach and threatened to choke off any speech. I was trying to tell you, she began, swallowing hard. Mr. Macklin wired that the House of Representatives passed legislation to renegotiate the treaty with the Crow and allow a railroad spur to be built across Indian land to Rainbow Gulch. She rushed all she had to say in one long breath. So, ain't that enough? Tom Johnson asked. Obviously confused, others nodded. Mary gazed around at the faces of the people she loved as if they were her blood kin. The House of Representatives is only the first step, and we passed, she added quickly, wanting them to feel encouraged, not disappointed. Now, it has to pass the Senate. So we didn't get it, Sam's voice was barely a whisper. No one in the crowd moved, even the afternoon breeze stilled, leaving the air as lifeless as the people gathered around. Mary saw the look of disbelief on their faces. How could her good news have turned out so badly? We've got to have that railroad, Eddie voiced, where everyone was obviously thinking. Hunting gold out there on pack animals was tough enough, but now the gold's gone. It's silver and nothing, and it's too danged heavy to haul out of here on mules. Mary shared their frustration. I know. She thought of the rich vein of silver her father had claimed. This was it for them, like everyone else here. Their one chance at a future, a decent life. Lord, she hated this. Why couldn't the Senate have voted too? Of course, that wasn't the way of politics. Sam Rafferty shifted from one booted foot to the other. If we don't get that train, this'll be a ghost town come first snow. The silver won't be worth digging if we can't get it to a smelter. When the main railroad track only 50 miles away seems like it ought to be a cinch, except for them danged Indians. What are we gonna do? Eddie asked solemnly. The letter-written stuff, you know. Stuff was your idea, Mary. Hell, you wrote most of them yourself, and it worked as far as it went, but now... Mary took a deep breath and let it out slowly. Behind the chestnut geldings, suddenly restless, pawed the ground. The late afternoon shadows of the building edged across the street like the feeling of dread that was edging through the gathered people. Somehow she felt as though she'd failed. The feeling didn't sit well with her. Mr. Macklin will wire as soon as he knows anything. It wasn't much to offer, but it was the best she had. Don't you go worrying, Mary, her father assured her. Macklin is okay, Sam Rafferty mused, for a territorial representative all, but he ain't got a stake in this like we do. Mary stared at the group of miners. Look at you. Are you giving up before it's even over? Are you going to start packing? I'm not ready to walk away, and neither should you be. They had the good grace to look a little sheepish, she noticed. Mary, you've done everything you could. Eddie's lips turned up in less than an enthusiastic smile. You're the one with book learning. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have had no chance at all. He looked around. Tell her, folks. Ain't no one blaming you for nothing. That's right, Mary. You've done it all. Mary shook her head, and another lock of hair pulled free from her top knot and fell down across her face. Annoyed, she blew it back. I sent a wire to Mr. Macklin, thanking him for all his help. He knows how important this is, and, like I said, Mary, Sam spoke up again, Macklin is okay, and it ain't like... His pale blue eyes widened with a sudden realization. Like one of us was there. Sam looked around at the others. What we need is one of us in Washington. Eddie shook his head adamantly. Are you plumb crazy, Sam? Who? Who are we going to send? He made a sweeping gesture toward the crowd. Who's going to give up weeks of mining to go running off across the country? Besides, Brian broke in, where's the money coming from? We'll pass the hat, Sam fired back, obviously convinced his idea was the right one. Everyone puts in something, cash, gold, whatever they can spare. The folks in this town are nearly broke, and even if we come up with the fare, there still ain't no one to go, Eddie reminded Sam. I could go. All eyes turned to Mary, and for a full 10 seconds no one spoke. What else was there to say? Then, abruptly, the men turned to discuss their options. There were none, and Mary knew it. Besides, the more she thought about it, the more she wanted to go. There seemed to be a sudden electricity in the air. Maybe from that approaching storm, maybe not. She waited while they kept going over their choices, as if she weren't standing 2 feet away and couldn't hear every word. Not that they were saying anything bad, but for a group of tough miners to send a woman to speak for them, well, it was something that didn't come naturally, and she knew it. The group quieted. Sam glanced around at the crowd, again as if searching for unspoken objections. I say Mary goes for us. Others in the group gave the barest of nods. Mary knew it was a real blow to their pride to have to ask a woman to go in their stead. It doubled her determination to succeed. Thank you. I won't let you down. Tomorrow... No, it was Brian Clancy who spoke up. I'm not sending Mary off on a train to Washington all alone. I kind of messed that up. It ain't right. It ain't safe. Her father's ejection didn't come as a complete surprise, and she turned to him with her most confident smile. The one that had been letting her get her own way since she was 8 years old. Now, Papa, I've grown up in mining camps from California to Montana. If I've managed to take care of myself around a bunch of... She thought better of her statement, and, clearing her throat, started again. Traveling on a train will be easy. She'd been fighting all her life to hold her own in a camp of rough miners, to help her mother keep food on the table and a roof over their heads, while her father searched for that elusive strike, the mother lode. That would give them a real home and respectability and permanence. Now they had it, or a chance at it anyway, if they could only get the train. Say yes, Papa. Brian stared long and hard at his only daughter, and for an instant she thought all her efforts had failed, and he wouldn't relent. Fortunately, the men came to her aid. Girl's right, Brian. She can take care of herself. She goes to Bozeman and back without no trouble. What's going to happen on a train? They got them conductor fellas to make sure about such things. Brian's gaze answered, and he rubbed his clean-shaven chin thoughtfully. Mary's heart sank. Papa, she began, stepping in front of him. Turning her back on the crowd, she kept her voice low. I'll be careful. She put a reassuring hand on his arm. This is for us, Papa. It was tough enough having Utah after Willie died. Her voice cracked as she remembered how her mother had stoically sat on the back of the wagon and watched as the camp and the grave of Mary's 10-year-old brother disappeared from view. Her mother had hardly spoken for days after that. Now her mother was gone, too, died last fall of the fever. Mary's gaze was instinctively drawn to the simple white cross on the distant hillside. Her father turned his head to follow her line of vision. When he looked back, tears glistened in his blue eyes. We're not leaving, Papa. Her fingers tightened on his arm, and tears welled in her own eyes. I'll be careful. I'll wire Mr. Macklin to meet me when I arrive, and I'll find a nice couple on the train to stay close to them. Softly she added, I can do this, Papa. For us. For Mama. In a voice that was more than a little shaky, Brian Clancy said, all right. I love you, Papa. I won't let you down. Alexander Moreau paused in the doorway of the luxurious Georgetown parlor. A quiet murmur moved through the room. Heads turned in his direction. Some smiled, the ladies mostly, and a few of the men he called friend. Damned few of those, he thought, scanning the crowd for 30 or so dressed in elegant evening attire. With a small nod to the foursome standing closest, Alex walked into the room. Skirting around the ivory brocade settee and matching wing chair, he went straight to his host for the evening. I don't really know what that is. It's a good question. Senator, Alex said, extending his hand, thank you for your invitation. I apologize for being late. As if on cue, the gold-and-black French table clock on the mantel chimed 11 precisely. I was unavoidably detained on business. Senator Jack Carlin, a portly man with snow-white hair, turned with a gracious smile to greet his guest. I hope the business, he emphasized with a knowing tone, was rewarding. He chuckled, his brown eyes sparkling with mischief. You're getting randy in your old age, Jack. Unfortunately, this time it was business. I was trying to find Macklin. I wanted to talk to him about the little piece of legislation he managed to slip through the house. Somebody's behind this, and I want Alex, darling. I missed you at dinner. Sandra Brinker broke in. Her hand, which rested lightly on his sleeve, was obvious. So was her perfect little pout. Alex knew about the gestures and the lady, intimately. I missed you, too. He hid his annoyance at her rudeness while slipping his arm around her hold. You look lovely this evening, he added, with a well-practiced charm. Of course, in this case, it was true. Sandra was quite beautiful. Some said one of the most beautiful women in Washington. Trouble was, the lady knew it, just as she knew the apricot color of her designer silk gown complemented her auburn hair perfectly. How was the theater? Oh, the play was quite tedious. She gave a dismissing wave in her slender hand. Not at all funny. You didn't miss a thing. Well, actually, the senator contradicted while brushing in a non-existent speck of lint of his sleep. I found it to be quite good. These things are a matter of taste, I suppose, Sandra allowed with a shrug of her bare porcelain shoulders. Yeah, she's got porcelain soldiers. Golly. Yes, reading with me is definitely boring. Yes, I suppose you're right. Though everyone I've talked to enjoy it greatly, Alex rebuted, annoying at her sobbing attitude even if she was the pampered granddaughter of a Supreme Court justice. Sandra, sweet, would you excuse Jack and me for a while? We have some business to discuss, and I'm sure you'd be quite bored with this, too. Alex couldn't help the tint of sarcasm in his voice. Her brown eyes flashed as if she were about to argue. She evidently thought better of it. Will I be seeing you soon, Alex, darling? Her voice was husky and her intention clear to anyone who could hear, which fortunately did not include her grandfather, who was standing 15 feet away near the Italian marble mantel. I'll try. The senator fell in a step as Alex strode across the Aubusson carpet toward the open French doors and the oleander-lined terrace beyond. Voices, a woman's laughter, carried up the tow path along the canal. Couples, perhaps. Lovers, strolling in the moonlight, he thought. The slow-moving water glinted silver and white as it flowed silently toward the Potomac. I don't understand you, Alex. The senator's baritone voice interrupted his thoughts. What? Your mind telling me why you're wasting your time with a haughty bitch like Sandra Brinker? Leave it to Jack to cut to the chase, Alex thought with an inward sigh. Sandra has her talents, though her possessiveness was starting to overshadow her eagerness for things. Provocative. I just don't get it. My personal life is not open for discussion, not even to you, old friend. Old friend, hell, I've known you since you were in short pants, so you'll understand if I feel that gives me certain rights. He sat down on the white wicker love seat. The wicker creaked and snapped under his weight. I'm not trying to pry. I only want to see you happy. I'm happy. And why are we having this discussion tonight of all nights? Because it's high time someone took you to a task. And with your parents gone, I seem to be the closest thing to family you've got. God damn it, Jack. I don't need your parenting. The hell you don't, Jack fired back. Your father left you when you well provided for when he died. Hell, he owned an inviolable portion of boot real estate, not to mention a couple of hotels and a bank, if I remember right. Why, half of the women in this town would come running if you so much as snapped your fingers. He shifted, leaning forward to rest his elbows on his knees. You should have been married and settled long ago, and we both know it. If it's because the Sims girl walked out, Alex turned sharply. Old pain, old anger welled up in him. This is the last time I'm telling you, Jack. Stay out of my personal business, all of it. That's final. What's past is past. I like my life just fine the way it is. Yes, so you say. Jack shook his head. You're 28, 29. All the more reason I deserve exactly what I've got, which is a hell of a lot more than the most men, white or otherwise. And that was the heart of the matter. Became Alex Moreau was, and always would be, a half-breed. A man who walked in two worlds and belonged to neither. When your father was white and your mother Indian, you learned early how to conceal your pain, how to fight, and most important, how to win. Alex had learned his lessons well. He had the scars to prove it. Jack seemed to be blind to the prejudices of the world, and Alex loved him for it. But I don't want to talk about this anymore, Jack. I'm changing the subject. Period. I know that tone. Jack made a show of sighing. All right, I give up. For now. Alex relaxed. He even chuckled. Thanks, was all he said as he sat down next to his friend. From the grassy slope behind the oleander hedge, a chorus of crickets serenaded them, giving the night a peaceful feeling, a feeling that Alex didn't share. Leaning back, he draped one arm along the back of the settee, maybe? I'm not even sure. Now, about this move to nullify the treaty. What have you heard? Not much. It came out of the House last week, headed for the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs. I can get you the names of the members. Most of them you already know. Crocker, Blandings, Andrews. Yes, I've given $1 or $2 to most of their campaigns. Alex glanced over with a rueful smile. Figured sooner or later the family would need someone to do a little favor. It's a white man's world and a white man's government. You should know that. You just have to know how the game is played. Well, you're a lawyer. Glad to see all those years at school weren't wasted. Time to take a few of the esteemed gentlemen to luncheon. Express a certain interest in the outcome of such a move. That was the easy part. He was a man who knew how to get things done, his way. It would help little if I knew who the competition was. I haven't heard. There's money to be made, though. You can bank on that. A feeling of apprehension inched up Alex's spine. Money and power go hand in hand, and if there's money to be made at the expense of the Indians, some people say so much better. It's only been 3 years since the Custer fiasco. Absently, Alex rubbed his hands along the tops of his wool-clad thighs. Whatever it takes, he said, as much to himself as to Jack. I'm going to stop this. As far as I'm concerned, the Treaty of 68 was written in stone, and anyone who wants to change it is going to have to go through me. Alright, everyone, so that was chapter 1 of this really weird book. So, as far as I can see, it's definitely a book of the past type of life, you know, where trains are a thing, carriages, and I guess the old Wild West. And I appreciate you guys being patient with me because I know my cats have been fairly annoying in this particular episode, but I still love the little boogers. Anyways, for this particular giveaway, I have 2 questions. One, what do you think of this book so far? Personally, I feel like it's another boring ride so far, but it was kind of fun to read. I guess kind of voice over the different voices and just kind of become a part of the book in a way. But my second question is actually a very interesting question. Would you guys like for me to do art contests? And if so, how would you like for these to happen and how often? Because I did kind of come up with an idea, because I plan to do my own mystery boxes to sell and provide different, just different things, maybe some Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, collectibles, different types of things that I feel like our audience would really like. And then also, I had an idea of sending out a little art project in each of the boxes and let it run for so long. And then if you guys send, something in regards to the art contest or whatever it would be, then you would be entered in for a giveaway to maybe a specific, like, special item, maybe a collectible or something that you would at least know what you would be getting. And I just would like to know your guys' thoughts on this, because I am actively trying to, I guess, mull over all of these ideas that I have and try to bring a more consistent schedule to the channel, as well as plans of how I can fund the channel. And the only thing that I can think of is, through selling things right now, reselling cards, maybe trading some to complete some sets. And that's pretty much all I can think of right now. But I hope you guys have a great day today. And stay tuned to tomorrow's episode, which is going to feature 2 days, because yes, I missed another day and I didn't mean to. But before we leave, let's go ahead and pick a giveaway winner. For the previous video, I forgot to do that too, so let's make sure we do that this time. So, the winner will be, for this episode, Jesus Chavez. So, until I'll be messaging you. Jesus, this is just so funny. I just saw him our little Jesus figure, Saruman. But anyways, also, I've noticed that we've gained a few subscribers, so if we do reach 300 subscribers, I will probably try to plan another big live stream to celebrate some kind of holiday in the future here. But until next time, you guys, happy treasure hunting.